Well, you guys have shocked me because apparently only 31% of you like this style of blade to regularly carry as an EDC pocket knife. And no, I'm not talking about a clip point, but I am talking about a blade that's in the family of the Kershaw Strata, the Strata Cleaver from Kershaw. So in that family, D2 steel, 4-inch cleaver design, frame lock, deep ride loop over, KVT ball bearing. We've got a lot of interesting little details and attributes. But a few days ago, prior to hitting record, I put up a poll on YouTube and I asked you guys if you were going to EDC the clip point design or the cleaver design, which would you EDC tomorrow? Like what design makes sense more for you for EDC? And it was a resounding 69% of you out of 2,000 votes, 2,000 of you voted, 69% of you said you would not carry a cleaver design for EDC, and it really was best suited for the kitchen or the camp kitchen. And only 31% of you said, I'm gonna, I would carry this design tomorrow. I would carry a cleaver design. So that was very interesting to me and kind of shocking, honestly, because I've seen so many cleaver styles lately. It's been very trendy, very, hip right now in the EDC community, and lots of knife companies are releasing pocket knives in the cleaver shape. And I had to pull a few comments off of the over 50 comments that you guys left. There's some gems in here. These are some good ones here. Knife World's version of the fidget spinner. There might be some truth to that. There is no point to a cleaver. Point intended. There's no point to a cleaver. Cleavers are the bell-bottom jeans of the knife world, so showing somebody's age right there. And guys, if you're enjoying the content in this video, I do invite you to subscribe, smash that like button, and make sure to hit the bell icon so that you can be notified every week when I post up new content. And for those of you who are regular followers and subscribers here at the channel, thank you. Seriously, you help me by interacting with that poll to create the content in this video. This is a partnership that we're doing together, and I'm going to be doing more polls, more information over on that community section of the Gideon's Tactical YouTube channel. So check back regularly on that, because you'll not only see like deals maybe that I find, sales and stuff going on, but also I'm going to do more polls because it does help me understand what you guys are looking for and maybe look at things from a different perspective that I don't always see. Now, they've done a lot to really make it kind of pop and not just be generic. There's a lot of generic cleavers out there. You have a slight sweep the entire time on the blade, which is really nice. Wide blade from edge to spine, 1/8 of an inch thick that is taken the entire length of the blade. It doesn't really taper. And then you do have a slight swedge running the entire top that is rounded, and then you do have a generous large finger choil. We'll talk about a little bit more in ergonomics. From handle to tip is 4 inches. Actual cutting edge is about 3.5. Overall D2 steel, so it's really nice to see that Kershaw is transitioning into their overseas produced stuff into D2. I think that's a good choice, and we'll talk value and all that in a little while on a stone wash blade. Now, I like how there's this little lip right here, and so that's for a choke up cutting pull cut motion. You can call that like a caping motion sometimes, like that, and really gives you control on the very close front end of the blade, and I like that. It's a nice little rest point there for your index finger. It's got a flat grind, but a very high flat grind, almost a full flat up there. And with that type of style, it means that it's going to be a slicer. It's designed to slice and to chop. That's what a cleaver design is intended to do. And that means that it's a little bit blade heavy because it actually has less material back here by the choil and by the pivot, and more material, blade material up front, and it keeps that consistent all the way through. And that's what you're going to notice about most cleavers, is that they at least are consistent or even slightly blade heavy because of the design purpose of the tool. And so that means that with the way the handle is, you could absolutely do some light chopping, not for outdoor stuff, I would say, though if you were camping, you could shape a piece of wood if you needed to, but more so if you're doing some quick chops, it gives you the ability to get back and do some really nice wrist flicks and get the cutting done. Now, the edge geometry is really good. It sliced really well through just basic material. I used it as an EDC several times, as well as just a lot in the kitchen, which a lot of us would agree with. And we'll address, is a folder, does it make sense, later on for being used around the camp kitchen or the, family kitchen at your house. So there's that attribute. Now, what I noticed is that with that tip, and this is where the majority of people have an issue, is for penetrating material. You still get a good angle, not obviously as piercing as any other style. It's the bluntest of all blade shapes. But I wanted to show us here just a little bit of a perspective. This is a Kershaw dividend. It actually has almost, when I kind of like line it up, it's really hard for me to do here on frame and balance it with you guys. But when you line the edges up, they're almost the identical sweep. It's just obviously not as aggressive of a drop, giving you more of a piercing tip. But that tip, you can still pierce if you go in at a different angle. Whereas I can go straight in with a pocket knife that's like a Warncliffe, and many of you, said that would be probably one of the better options if you're wanting the tip of the blade to be lower profile to the handle. So it's at like a 45-degree almost is what you're looking at. So if you come in to a package, your kid's toys just arrived, whatever, package of meat, and you come in at a 45, it's going to pierce about the same as that Kershaw dividend, but it's that straight on impact that's just, it's almost like a safety knife, So that's the attribute that you're going to have to determine for yourself. But for general slicing, if piercing is not the goal or needed in your scenarios and how you EDC, and that was an interesting comment that a few of you left, is that this is, those of you who like it for EDC, is that the majority of EDC tasks are contact with the material and a pull back towards yourself, in which case this is a really good design. So that's something to take into consideration on think about how you actually use your tool, and is piercing a necessity? And if it's not, maybe this style is actually more usable and more versatile. Now, as we move on from there into the deployment, it's running on KVT ball bearing washers. Kershaw uses that a ton now, and I like it. I have no issues with that type of deployment, particularly for this kind of style. Though, if we are using it a lot in the kitchen, ball bearings tend to collect more material. More gunk can get in there, so that's something to kind of be aware of. Maybe bronze bushings would have been, or washers would have been a better option, just a little less opportunity for gunk, grime, food particles to get all in the ball bearings. But it's a very smooth deployment. If you're thinking more of EDC, it's excellent, and it's very easy with that large flipper with some jimping on it that's not aggressive. It feels really good. You can easily get that deployed. The other attribute is that weight. Because there's actually more weight up front than there is back behind, because that thickness stays throughout, and there's actually that choil cutting down on the weight up there, it means that it flicks open very easily. Even though it has a good detent ball and a good detent, I saw because of the weight balance, you can overcome that detent rather easily. So that's something just to kind of consider. So going back to that fidget spinner idea, it definitely does feel like that a little bit. It is fun to just kind of play with. You can kind of close and then swing the handle into it, and it's going to guillotine down into place there. So it is a fun blade, even though it's pretty big, to manipulate. Now, the lockup is a frame lock right there. It's going to hit about 80%. One thing that I did see, though, is that there's no over travel stop, so I can actually like over pull it, which is kind of odd because the original Strata designs have this plate that acts as an over travel stop. So they didn't put that on this model, even though there's actually like a cutout for it. So I think it would be a nice touch to see, because I could see, because of how long the frame lock is, some people are really pushing hard or something, or you give it to somebody, they don't really know what they're doing, and you could almost overflex it. Now, because of where it sits, I'm not too concerned about that. It's burying itself about 80% behind the spine of the knife, but it would have been a nice little detail to just keep consistent with the rest of the Strata series that I'm not seeing. Now, on to the handle itself. This is, for how big it is, it's a lightweight blade at 4 ounces, 5.3 inch long handle. So it's a long handle, but it's narrow, and it really tapers back here. Again, going to that idea that you can hold it back here and really give it that wrist flick, and then you can choke up to your standard grip and really manipulate it well. It has a hit of jimping that's really, it looks cool, and it works, and it's not too sharp. This is a good way to do jimping. If you're gonna do jimp, this is a good way to not only make it look aesthetically pleasing, but also functional. And then that massive, about 1 inch choil allows you to really choke up, and they even set the handle with it being a standard fullness, really intended for that choil right there. Boom, you're choked up, 3.5 inches about of blade length that you now have to work with, manipulate, control, put your thumb right up there, work with whatever either hard material or food that you might be working with, but then being able to back off. And because it's just so long, even though it's narrow back there, it's not an issue, and it gives you that control and kind of, I don't know, I just feel like it needs that wrist flick action, and the handle shape does that. Cool accents on the handle scales, that G10 on one side there, lots of milling and machining done on that just to make it look cool and kind of pop. And then again, that stainless steel on the other side. And then they did put a lot of effort into that pocket clip. It's a high rise, deep ride loop over pocket clip. It is righty only, so lefties, I'm sorry, you're out of luck. And you actually are going to have to take the handle scale off in order to access the screws. The screw heads are actually inside, so it gives it a super clean, nice, flush look. Because it's not rotatable, it kind of makes sense, and it just gives it this very clean line. So finally, to pricing, Kershaw did hook me up with this, sent this over to me in kind of a care package on several of their new releases, so I appreciate them sending it over to me so I can show you guys what its capabilities are, what its limitations are, so that you can determine for yourself, is this something to throw into rotation as we wrap this up, but also give you my thoughts on just the cleaver design in general in just a moment. Normal, street price is going for about $65 currently for a 4-inch D2 steel blade. The fit and finish is good. Yes, there are little attributes that either you may not like, not ambidextrous, the ball bearings, the no over travel, that I would have liked to see, but that's about the same price as the 4.5-inch Strata. This is the larger version clip point, so staying true to that. And it's right within about $5 to $10 of like the Gerber flat iron. Some of those versions in D2 are there. That's actually a smaller blade and not as refined of mess with that. This is definitely more refined in its like fit and finish and attention to detail and little accent points than on the flat iron, and that's right around that same cost from what I saw over on Blade HQ. So I will have links if this model or the other ones that I've mentioned today make sense for you. Do appreciate when you use all those hyperlinks that I offer to you guys below in the description box. Now, for me, I'm in that 69 percentile. I'm not going to regularly carry this as an EDC knife. It's just not what I'm going to do. It's cool. It's unique. It's kind of fun to throw in if I know maybe I'm going to be doing a lot of food prep that day, or I'm just going to be hanging around the house. And it's like, yeah, I want a pocket knife on me, but it's not like ideal. But it's not going to be, if you're like, hey, you can only carry one for a month, what blade shape, what blade style are you going to go with? I'm going to go with a clip point or a Warrenclyffe or a drop point, Tanto even over a cleaver design. And so it is really, in my mind, mainly suited for the kitchen and mainly food prep. That's my perspective. Now, having a pocket knife as a food prep knife, if you're a chef or you're someone who just does food a lot, I think it's a really cool idea to do that. For a lot of people, it just makes sense to have a fixed blade version. I think it would be cool to keep the exact same profile, lines, style, materials, get a really slim, like, sheath and make this a fixed blade version as well. I think would be a really cool attribute, or some form of stainless steel. Do a Sandvik 14C28N and have a stainless steel version of this. Then I think a lot of people would also carry it and put it in their camp kits or in their kitchen, just to have a cool Kershaw style and a cleaver that actually like looks cool versus just most that are pretty generic looking. So guys, that's my perspective, that's my mileage, and I obviously kind of line up with the majority of you, but leave a comment below. Let me know what you think, what your thoughts are on the Strata in general, this cleaver version, and cleaver knives, blade shapes in general for EDC in general carry. Do you carry? And let me know. I invite you to, again, check out the other video popping up, subscribe if you're not yet a subscriber, and until next time, always remember, stay equipped, stay prepared, and I'll see you out there.